Hi everyone, this is the beginner's guide for the Swissmicro's DM42. Now the DM42 is a nice clone of the HP42S, which is considered a very popular calculator, and some people think it's one of the better HP calculators. But the Swissmicro's DM42 is a very special calculator because this is in production and people are buying it for different reasons. Now this is a beginner's guide, so I'm barely figuring out how to use this calculator. One thing that this calculator does, it does what they call RPN, reverse Polish notation, which we'll kind of get into when we talk about the calculator. So you might get the calculator like this, where it has some information. You can always press exit, and it's asking for the time and the date, or the date and the time, right? And it does this and it clears this. Now, you can reset the calculator. It has a nice little reset button right here. Get your famous or ultimate tool, the paper clip, just press on the back and then it does that for you. So you put the time, the date, and so forth. And we'll remove some of these things and add some of these other things. When you press exit again, it clears things up. It has what they call stacks, well, which is the cool thing about these RPN calculators. What they'll do is they'll store numbers as you calculate. And then when you enter some numbers, it just pushes the other numbers on the top. We'll do a few of those in a minute. But the way this is set up right now, if you type 1 and enter it, right, it puts it on the top stack and it copies whatever you did previously. I think there's reasons for that for me because I haven't been around for a long time, but if you get a calculator like the HP 11, it's a little bit hard to see, the 11C, if you turn it on and you press 25 and you enter it, it's displaying, it's telling you, hey, you just entered 25. It's in the stack, what they call the stack. So it reminds you what that number is because I think it was because it was, most of these calculators have one display or two. So, and people love this type of setup. I don't, because when I started to really be serious about the HP calculators was the 48SX, which runs a little bit different, and I will change that here in a minute. But if you press 2 and enter, you can see 1 went up, and then 3 you enter, and then 1 goes up even farther up. The problem with this is when I type 4 and enter, that 1 is gone. It just disappeared. And then if I type in 5, so there's really only 3 active areas, which I really don't like. So we're going to be changing that. To do that, we got to do a few things. Let's go, for example, Shift and Setup. So when I say Shift, I'm pressing the yellow button. And then when I say the word after Shift, it's usually one of the yellow keys, in this case, Setup, which is down here. Okay. And then you have all these things here: File, Calc State, Print, Settings, and so forth. We're going to go to number 4. So we can press number 4 if we want, or we can move our arrow and then press Enter, or press number 4. Here, if you press Enter, you can change the time again. If you move down, you can also set the date if you like. The status bar, if we go to the status bar and press Enter, a lot of things here you can do, like the day of the week, I don't want that. The date, I don't need that. The time, I don't need that. If you want the power level, the power voltages, you can do that. I don't want that. And then you can press Exit. It brings you back to the menus. You can have, I guess, different fonts, size, beep. I'm not sure what slow auto repeat. Stack layouts. X, Y, Z, T seems to be the default, but you can have some more. If you press here, it tells you the different layouts, but we're not going to want that. It's going to go away in a minute. And then here, I'm going to put on dynamic stack extension. This is what I want, and this is going to change. So I press exit, and then exit. Okay, now the next thing I need to do to change this stack, I need to go to Shift, and I need to go to Catalog over here. I know there's a lot of setup to start up, but trust me, it's going to be great. Then I'm going to go down with the down arrow, and I'm going to go to STK, which I'm assuming is stack. And then I'm going to go down. It gives you another level of menus. And then NSTK, which is right here. Okay. Now you can see that it doesn't say, it just says numbers on the side over here. I'm going to press exit again. The habit of pressing exit to get out of the menus is something that you're going to find. Then there's a secret. These are function keys, by the way, on the top over here. You press this one, the F2 key. It's like a hidden menu. And you press Reg FM once, twice. And it gives you very fine lines. You see that? Now the numbers are on the right. So not only are the numbers on the right, and you have this fine line over here, it gives you more stacks. Because now, if I press 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Every time I type a number, I'm pressing enter right here. And if you want to look at those numbers, you can press R with the arrow key. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. See that? 13 again. So all those numbers are in the stack, and they're not lost. If you press menu again, that disappears. Now that the screen is a little bit cleaner and much more readily available for us. Now let's look at display. If you press Shift, display, you can pay fix, scientific, engineering, and all. So right now it's fixed. I guess it's fixed at 4. For whatever reason, people love that. I don't. I'm gonna click on all. And what that means is that it's going to give me all the numbers. Let's go back to display here. I think it's on all. So if you go 8, enter, 25, divide, it gives me more numbers. I don't know. Let's do this here. So it gives me a bunch of numbers. I know that was like, what are you doing? How do you enter? What are you doing? How do you divide? I'm gonna show you in a minute. But I wanted to show you the display. Now the mode, you go to Shift and then Mode, which is right here, modes, right? Degrees, radians, grads, rectangular, polar. So you can change that all you want, right? The mode. Let's press exit. When you type a number like 3, 6, 9, 8, 7 and enter into the stack, you see that comma right there? That's annoying. So we're going to, there are these settings in the calculator, they're called flags. We're going to set a flag or remove a flag. I'm not sure what CF means. I mean, I guess check a flag. Anyway, we're going to go to Shift, again yellow, and flags, number 6. And then I'm going to press CF, and it says, what number do you want to type? 29. 29 gets rid of those commas. Okay, so we're good here. This stack right here can be cleared by pressing Shift and clear. It gives you a bunch of menus. And it says right here on 1, 2, 3, 4 on F4, it says clear stack CLST, and then you clear it. When you type a number like 36 and you enter it, and let's say 58 and you enter it, right, these two numbers, you can use the arrow key to delete those. And I think when you're typing in numbers, you can get rid of those numbers too. Okay, that's a lot. My calculator is ready. Some people some hardcore people will be like, that's horrible. You just changed it. Well, that's cool because it's flexible enough to have, you know, a look and feel that you're comfortable with other calculators. And that's a cool thing about Swissmicro's calculator, the DM42, is because there are some people that like an enhanced version of the RPN. Okay, now, how do we add and subtract? Especially for those that don't know how to use an RPN type calculator. And hopefully, as we're doing this, you'll get a sense of what's so cool about RPN and its features. So let's say I wanted to add 4 plus 3. Okay, well, we take 4, we enter it. We take 3, we enter it. And we don't have to enter it, but we're going to enter it anyway. And we're going to add. See, that gives you 7. Right? 4, enter, 3, add. Or you can take 3, enter, 4, add. And give you 7. That's fine. Okay. You know, multiplying, right? Like 2 times 8, same thing. 2, enter, 8 times, gives you 16. That's easy. You know, 47, let's say 47 divided by 8, 47. And you can see that there's a bar over here telling you that you can enter more numbers. Press enter, 8, divide, it gives you 5.875. There's no fraction button here. There's no ABC, there's no D over C. So, and that's because this particular calculator is pretty faithful for the clone of the HP42S. The mindset of this is more like when you were back in the 80s. So what makes it cool? Well, you can upgrade the software in here, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, let's keep going. Let's say you want to do something like 1 over, no, let's say the square root of 8, right? Square root of 8, okay, fine. You press 8, and you don't have to enter it. You just take the square root of it, right? 2.8284. Let's say you had 1 over the square root of 142, right? Well, you would type 142, right? And you take the square root, and then you flip it, 1 over x, and you get 8.391 times 10 to the minus 2. This calculator will show you scientific notation. Well, it's not scientific notation. Well, it is, actually, with the E, of course. It gives you scientific notation. It doesn't seem to give you a display of the values, only if, I guess, like without the scientific notation, I guess you can go to display, and you can say fix maybe 3, let's see, and you enter it. It gives you this. But it would be nice if it flowed easily like other calculators that we've used in the past. I don't like it in the display like this. I like all. So we're going to have to deal with it that way. One thing about HP calculators, you'll find out. And yes, this is not an HP calculator. This is a DM42, but the spirit inside is a HP. You see, when we do something like let's say 8 to the second, right? We know that's 64. In a HP calculator, we type in y first and then x. Okay. So we need to. So when we have something like y to the x, we need to type in 8 first, enter, and then 2, and then we don't need to enter it, but you can if you wanted to. And then we go to shift y to the x, gives you 64. Okay. Here, you don't see too many. Here you won't see something like the x root of y. You don't see it here on this keyboard layout. But keep in mind that you type in y first, then x. That's going to be important a little bit later on. Course log of, let's say 17. You press 17, type 17, and then you can press log. There you go. 10 to the x, right? Let's go with the AntiLog, right? So that would be shift this number that we have, x to the 10 gives you 17. Same thing with the natural log of, like, say 8. Same thing, you type in 8, you press in log, right? And you can do the AntiLog, which is e to the x. So you can go back and forth. That's really nice. The XEQ is, you press that to run a program. This video won't talk about too much about that, but we'll touch on it a little bit. Of course, you have sine, cosine, and tangent. Let's say, let's go over here. Let's say the sine of 180, right? So we type in 180. We go sine. That gives you 0, right? Let's do another one. Let's say cosine of 180. 180 sine, or cosine, gives you -1. Okay, so if you go to shift modes, this is right here, right? That's in degrees. Let's say I want radians instead. Not sure if you pressed it. Well, go to shift modes, and it's in radians. Okay, you can use pi, which is right here. So if you say shift pi, right, and you took so the cosine of pi should be -1 because we're in radians, and we are. See that? So shift modes, let's take it back to degrees. And let's go back to modes. Degrees, radians, grads, rectangular, polar. So that's where that is. Do you remember the last number that we typed for cosine of pi, right? I believe it was pi. So if you go over here where it says last x, so you go shift last x, it gives you the pi. It gives you the last number that you typed into the calculator. Let's say, so let's clear this stack, right? You press shift, clear, and then clear stack. Let's say for whatever reason, you type in a 9 and you type in a 5, right? You have two numbers over here on the stack and you want to switch them. This is the button, the XY button. And you can go back. Let's say you want -10 minus 8, right? That negative. So you press 10, right? And then you press the negative plus or minus key. You enter. You type in 8, and then you subtract. Whoa, way different, isn't it, than a regular calculator? That's for sure. Okay. We'll do, now what we'll do now, let's do percent. Let's say you had 101 of 2%, right? So we go 101, enter, and then 2, and then you don't have to enter it, but you can if you wanted to. The shift and percent, and it does the math automatically for you. 202, right? That's like saying 101 enter, 0.02 times. It does all those steps for you. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some operations and hopefully give you a sense of how beautiful RPN can be in a situation where you have a lot of calculating to do in a problem. So for example, let's say we had 2, 3 plus 4. In an algebraic calculator, you would have to put the parentheses. In a traditional calculator, sometimes you would have to write numbers out because you would have to store numbers. Which, by the way, we can store numbers on our calculator. But in this case that I'm going to do, you don't have to because those numbers are stored in what they call the stack. But let's say you did something like this. Okay? One thing that RPN also does too, as you can see, there's no parentheses symbols. It helps you do the whole concept of please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, where the rules of operation, order of operation, are important. So here, I'm going to add 3, enter, 4, and I'm going to add, and then I'm going to type in 2, and then multiply, right? Which is right, 2, 7, 14. It's almost, in a sense, what we need to do mathematically. You have to add this and then multiply. Of course, an algebraic calculator will do it automatically for you. But this is not the point. The point here is a RPN forces you to think of the order of operation, but it stores values here so that you don't have to store them or write them out, keeping all the numbers. So let's say 2, 3 plus 4, and let's say I want to square. Same thing, 3, enter, 4, and then I'm going to add those numbers, and then I'm going to square it. Square is over here, so I go shift, squared, which is 49, and I'm going to type in 2, and then multiply, and then it gives you 98. So, of course, traditional calculators, you know, when we had 49, when we had the 49, we would just say times 2, right? But because of RPN, you have to enter the numbers in the stack, and then you do the operation. Apparently, that is done for easy to program the calculator as well. But it also kind of structures your mind and how, kind of like an algorithmic way of how to do the math problem. Let's say you had 2 parentheses 3 plus 4 squared divided by the square root of, let's say, 8. So same thing, 3, enter, 4, plus, then you square it, like before. Then you multiply it by 2, right? You enter, you type 2, but you don't have to enter it, and then times, right? And then we don't say divide by square root of 8. We need to put the 8 and then the square root. As you can see, 90 is in the top, and then the square root of 8 is in the bottom. We divide 34.6482. Very neat, right? Let's say, continue with this problem, plus 4, right? 2, square root of 8. And let's say we're going to take the log of this, the natural log. Whoa, a lot of steps. But we work inside first, okay? So we take 3, enter, 4. We're going to add those. And what else are we going to do? We're going to square it. So shift squared gives you 49. And then we're going to take 2 and we're going to multiply it. Then we're going to take the bottom, 8, and take the square root. And we're going to divide. And then we're going to take the natural log. And that gives you 3.5452. Wow, crazy, right? Let's say, same thing, 2 times 2 parentheses 3 plus 4 squared divided by square root of 8 plus e to the 4th, let's say, natural log divided by 7 cubed, right? Okay, wow, many steps. The thing is also one thing about using a RPN calculator, it helps you focus on the problem and where you're at. You don't have to worry about keeping numbers or writing numbers down. It's stayed on the stack. So in this case, 3, enter 4. We add, then we need to square it. Then we need to multiply by 2. And on the bottom, we need 8 and take the square root of that. And then e to the 4, we take 4 and then e to the x. Then we add those two and then we divide. And then we take the natural log of it. That's the top number. And then 7, enter, to the 3rd power. Type in 3, shift, y to the x, divide. Wow, a lot of steps. 1.558 times 10 to the minus 3. Putting this in a algebraic calculator is possible. You would have to put parentheses and brackets. Traditional calculators, it would be a little bit harder. You would store some of the numbers and then bring them back and so forth, which is nothing wrong. But here, I think hopefully you're seeing the advantages of what the stack feature is all about. Okay, so I got other things here that I can talk about. Let's say you had something like, I don't know, 1.25 hours, and you want to convert it into hours, minutes, seconds, right? So let's say 1.25, right? We can enter that. There's a convert, so shift, convert, and you can do hours, minutes, seconds, and it does it. It gives you 1.15, 1 hour, 15 minutes, 0 seconds. That's pretty straightforward. Let's say I wanted to store some numbers. Let's say, I'm going to delete this. Let's say I wanted to store this temporarily, right? What we can do is we can go to store, and then it's going to ask you, type in a name. What we can do is there's an alpha section, so we can shift alpha. And this is going to take a little while to explain, but over here you have brackets that's empty inside, meaning that you can use the keyboard to type in something like a 6 or something, okay? Or I guess a multiply. I'm out of it, so I gotta press shift alpha. Maybe can I put an X? Yeah, I'm gonna delete. It takes it off. So I'm gonna press shift alpha. Let's say I don't want to use the keyboard like a 7/8, but I want the P or the Q or something. We could get into that. So we can go shift and this up arrow, and you can say capital A. So here there's an A, the B, C, D, J. So if I press this button, it gives you the J. If I press second up, it gives you the lowercase a. So I can put in letter N and W. Not only that, but here on the top, on the function buttons, you can press the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th F5 button, and it gives you the letters, but in capital. And then you press enter. When I pressed enter, whatever was on the first stack copied that number. So if we press shift and clear the stack, we should be able to get that number back by pressing recall. And then there's the variable that we named that value, and there's the value. It comes back. I think that's pretty neat. If you press Shift and 4, you can change different bases. We're in decimal right now. Apparently there's a logic section there. Okay, so that's pretty neat. Let's talk about the stats feature that's over here on the side very quickly. Let's say I had X, right? And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I wanted to find certain basic things like the mean and such, the sum of this and all that. To do that, we can press Shift clear, and we're going to press CL sum, which is the first function button. It clears the sums. I'm going to press Shift and clear again and clear the stack. So I'm going to type in the numbers. I'm going to store the numbers so that I can do the calculations. So if I press 1, right, which is right here, and press sum 1, this 1 is not that 1, okay? It says that's the first data point. If I press 2, sum of the second data point. And if you don't believe me, let's press 6, which would be the third data point, right? Which is right here, the third data point. Okay, so if we go clear right here, okay, so we're going to delete that. Let's do that again. 1, sum of x, 2, sum of x, 3, sum of x, 4, sum of x, 5, sum of x. Okay, okay, that's cool. And if you press second stats, we can find some other menus. If we press sum, right, it gives you the sum of x, which is 15. There's a 0 here because it seems to add another column. It needs 2 columns. Not smart enough. There's a reason for it, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. Then click on mean, right? The mean is 3, that's right, 3. And then standard deviation, right? The standard deviation is 1.5811. There are some recall variables that you can get more information. If you do the recall, right, 12. So if you go recall, you type in 12, it gives you the sum of x squared. How would you know that? You wouldn't. You just would have to memorize that. As you can see, it's really a calculator that's not so much user-friendly, but very powerful in terms of its ability to do some things that you couldn't do in the 80s, really, that easily. The programming and the functionality that you can change the software is what makes this calculator wonderful. So there's a few quirky things that we would think it would be quirky in today's calculators, and their interfaces are much easier, which we'll talk about later in another video probably. If you recall 16, that gives you n, how many data points, and then the recall 11, if you do the recall, type in 11, it gives you the sum of x, which is 15. Okay. And then you can do 2 variable statistics like x and y. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's say -10, -20, -30, -40, -50. In this case, what you need to do is you need to first go to Shift Clear and clear the sums. And I'm going to also go to Shift Clear and clear the stack. What I need to do is I need to enter the data where I need to enter -10 first, enter it, and then what I need to do is type 1 and then do the sums. Okay. Again, remember when I said that you need to type in y first and then x? It's not flexible. It needs to be y first and then x. That's one reason why there was a 0 over here when I was looking at the mean of 3 or even the sum of x. There was a 0 is because it created another column. So you need to type in 10. You need to type in y first. If you want to do the, for example, correlation coefficient and so forth, or else it won't work. So we're going to type in 10. We're going to plus or minus key. We're going to enter. We're going to type in 1. You don't need to enter it, but you can if you like. And then the sum of x. It stores those two numbers. That's what this 1 is on the bottom. And then you 20 plus or minus, enter. We're going to type in 2. Press the sum of x. Okay, 30 plus or minus, enter. 3, sum of x. 40. We're going to put in the negative there. We're going to enter. We type in 4, sum of x. 50, -50, enter. And then 5, sum of x. One thing to look at this, if you type in 69 and enter and press the plus or minus key, you can still do that. Okay. All right, so we entered all this, right? -50, we entered it, then 5, then the sum of x. Okay, or, add. So now, when you go over here and you look at sums, right? Let's clear it so we can see it better. Clear the stacks. If you press in sum, you can see it has -150 and 15. That's the sum of y, the sum of x. The mean. Well, first is the mean of y, -30, and the mean of x is 3. That's right, it's right here. Then the standard deviations. The standard deviation for y is 15.811 on the top, and then the standard deviation for x is 1.58. Cool, isn't it? Now, if we press in CFIT, if we press that button, we can press slope. So a is equal to -10, and the y-intercept is going to be 0, and the correlation coefficient, yes, I know these numbers are not great, 1. So y hat equals -10x plus 0. That's really neat, isn't it? It also has some recall variables. Recall 11. If you do recall, and you type in 11, that gives you 15. So that's the sum of x. If you do recall 12, that gives you the sum of x squared, which is 55. We already need that. Recall 13. All right, recall 13. That gives you the sum of y, which is -150. If you do the recall of 14, right? The recall of 14 is the sum of y squared, which is 5,500. Wow, okay. And one more, which is good, because in statistics, we need, recall of 16, that's going to be n. Recall of 16. Recall of 16 gives you n. I don't know where the sum of xy would be in here. I don't see it. It's not 10, and I don't think it's 17 either. Yeah, I'm not sure if there is a sum of xy. You would think so, and if there is, I'll read the documentation one more time. But again, this is a beginner's guide. Believe me, it took me a little while to figure this calculator out, which the main purpose is to put a different piece of software on it. I guess a few other things like, like scientific notation 1.34 times 10 to the 5th 1.34, which is this E button to the 5th. That's really nice. Enter. Gives you that. Take the square root of it. And then you can take 1 over x very easily. So that's there. A few other things that might be of interest to you is, for example, you can put this on your computer and it becomes a USB drive. To do that, you go to Shift Setup. You go to number 1 for Files, and it says number 3, Active USB Drive. But before you do that, you need to connect the micro USB, which is right here. You hook that up in the computer. You can easily do it on PC, Mac. It might even be on Linux too, but I'm not sure about that. You can also show in this menu here if you go down. So that's how you activate. Oh, one other thing about active USB disk. When you finish, make sure you unhook it from the computer first, and then this will do it automatically. It will kick out. But they say that if you don't properly unmount the drive, you might have some issues. But so don't. Here it says show disk information. It gives you some information on what's going on with the calculator. If you exit, you go back, right? There is, if you go file, sorry about that. If you go file and load program, number 1, this calculator might have some programs that are loaded. So I know there's one called stats here. Let's see. Statistics. See that? You press enter. It will load a statistics program in here. Exit. 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 Where is this program? Well, if you go to execute here, there's a whole bunch of other programs that you can run, or sub-programs. If you click on stats, it's asking you to type in a matrix, which in this video we're not going to do. If you did load a program like I just did right now, you can view it by pressing second program. And here, I don't remember, there we go. You have to press the shift and up key to look at the program. There's probably a better way of doing this, which I don't know. I've done a little bit of programming with this, and it's very interesting what people had to do 40 years ago. But one thing about this, calculators back in the 80s and the 70s were practically small computers in your pocket, and that was a big deal. Not like today where you have your phone and you can calculate a whole bunch of things with your phone. Back in the day, there weren't phones like that. So keep a mindset that this calculator has features that are precursors to what we have today. But you can do a lot with these. So that's how you create, that's how you look at a program. You can label a program by pressing Shift and program, and then label. You can give it a different label on the program if you like. I'm going to press exit. If you press exit again and exit, right, and exit one more time, you can create a new program, I think, by pressing Shift, Execute, and 2 dots, I believe. And then you press Shift and Program, and now you have an empty slot where you can store the program. There's some documentations out there. There's some YouTube videos that show you how to do your first program and stuff. It's helpful. I created a few programs. For example, it doesn't have to do inverse normal or CDF or PDFs. You have to program that on the calculator. But the HP calculators, the HP42S or the DM42, didn't have that because you would have to program that. Let's do some probability. If you go Shift and Probe, you can do combinations, right? Like 6, choose 3, right? 6, and then Enter 3, and then combinations, which is 20, and 6, 6 permutation 3, 6, Enter 3, right? You can go to Probe, permutation 120. You can do random numbers, Shift, probability. If you press random, gives you a random number. You do it that again, gives you another random number. Okay. There is a few other things, like for example, let's say pi. If you do pi, right, and you want more numbers, you can press Shift and Show. Gives you a whole bunch of numbers. One other place too that I didn't touch upon. If you go to Shift, Catalog, and then Function, you can, and then you press the arrow key, it will give you all the functions that this calculator can do for you. And it has a lot, as you can see. And there's a slope. Did you see that? It has a slope function, solve, square root. And you might find something that you might think, hey, oh, that's another thing too. If you press exit. If you press Shift, alpha, right? I don't know if it's down. If you press the arrow key down, yeah, you have more different symbols. I forgot to tell you that. And there's math symbols here. And can you go down? No, that's the only symbols you got. Okay, something. Again, this is a beginner's guide. This will definitely start you up and you're ready to go and do more with this. Like changing the firmware, getting comfortable with the way the calculator does. Yes, it has a solver, and it has also an integration way of you can integrate and you can solve. But those, you need some programming chops a little bit. Some people will say, no, you don't. Yes, you do. If you're coming from a TI 30XA or something and you want something more advanced because you're in the STEM field or something, it's going to take you a little time. It also does complex numbers, which is something that when people buy this calculator, loves those the format and so forth. I hope this this gives you a sense of what this calculator is. This does not in any way show you the true capabilities of what this calculator can do, and I will have other videos that will show with a different set of software inside of the capabilities of this calculator. But for right now, if you're looking for one of these, you can always go to Swissmicro's website, look at these. There are different, there's two versions of this calculator. There's a YouTube, no, there's not a YouTube. There's an eBay site that sells these brand new. And if you go research one of these, they're not inexpensive. And again, the reason why they're not inexpensive, HP doesn't make calculators anymore, apparently. They don't make calculators that are really focused for in the STEM fields. And people in Swissmicro and other and in other areas, they're trying to bring back the spirit of what these calculators could do. I had a 48SX. I still have it. It's still here. It's right here. After so many years of using it, it's old. Look at that. Pretty big. But and it still works barely. You can barely see it. But the quality and the focus of this for STEM fields is incredible. And the spirit of these calculators are now here. And there are many people all over the world that are trying to make a calculator that have that spirit again so that a new generation can fall in love with them. They're not like algebraic calculators or traditional calculators, or even calculators, you know, the typing for the Casios or the Sharps. It's a different type of input and a different type of thinking. And I hope, and then here's another one, right? I hope you appreciate the amount of work that they have done to create something beautiful and exciting. Okay, I hope this video helped you. Please give it a thumbs up. Please share it with your friends. I hope you have a great semester. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.